Basia here. Good to see you again for the Big Byte. This week, we spread our financial wings with spreadsheets, and I actually try my hand at computer games for the very first time.
Nothing is more fundamental to democracy than an election. Yet the voting process itself is rather clumsy. In many countries with complicated electoral systems, there can be long delays before the result is known. With pen and paper voting, there's always the chance that mistakes can be made or that security can be compromised.
Well, as you see, it is a smart card-based system.
In recent years, some nations have been searching for a better way of voting. Scandinavia and Belgium have experimented with versions of this computer-aided approach called Civis for Citizen Voting System. It's a relatively simple process that updates the usual ballot box procedure.
So we verify the card for you, giving you a single voting right.
And that's now my voting card.
First, a voter collects a card at the polling station after registering in the normal way. Once at the voting booth, you then make a choice by pushing a button instead of writing on a ballot paper. The selection is recorded on the card, which can then be read by the local computer. Once the polling station is closed, the votes are instantly tallied and ready for sending to the central counting base. Civis helps speed up the process, but it still doesn't overcome many of the drawbacks of the voting process. Truly secure and speedy system, and once again, Scandinavia is on the cutting edge.
Last year, Norway became the first country in the world to experiment with a highly sophisticated computerized voting system. But the results gave them just a little bit more than they bargained for, and they became a harsh reminder that all the technology in the world can't overcome the human factor.
Developed by Norway's government data centre, in theory the system seemed foolproof. Each registered voter receives an election slip in the mail, which they take to the polling station for verification by an electronic scanner. It ensures only those eligible can vote, and then only once each. Inside the booth, the vote is registered on a special machine-readable voting slip. The vote is sealed in an envelope and collected in the ballot box in the usual way. Once delivered to Oslo Town Hall, automated scanners, like sophisticated computers with eyes, can quickly count the vote. When Norwegians voted in the national election last year, it was meant to give a much faster result. Well, in theory anyway. What really happened became a national scandal, because unfortunately the system fell at the first hurdle. Voters in Oslo, where it was being test run, arrived to have their identity cross-checked, but instead of taking a fraction of a second, it seemingly took forever. Many voters were confused or gave up in disgust. The politicians were furious, and for weeks investigations were held about whether to cancel the results or live with a vote that seemed compromised. The election result was allowed to stand. The fault itself was traced to the setting on the modem connecting each polling station with the central computer. One simple error in a process containing literally thousands of decisions. And perhaps most amazing of all, the computer specialists are pushing on with an even more sophisticated system for next time round.
Yes, this is the future here already, I think. It's a fully electronic voting system based on the card as the equivalent to the envelope, the ballot envelope.
All right, so you insert the card.
I insert the card, and then I get the candidate menu. I use a light pen to pick it up on the screen, choose the first candidate.
The card records the selection, much like the Civis system. But the voting box is rather different. It instantly counts the vote, and the card is kept as a backup copy. The tally can either be kept on a built-in floppy disk or sent instantly by modem to the central counting office. In theory, the results can be known immediately after the polling has closed.
Well, I'll show you. Insert the card.
Once more, we'll try it again.
Insert the card.
No. Didn't get
Something is wrong.
Don't worry, it'll be all right on the night.
Right.
You
got a problem?
When you shop around for a machine, the amount of RAM or memory and the hard disk are two of the most important things that you need to understand. Now, this machine has 8 megabyte of RAM and 120 megabyte hard disk. Both are measured in megabyte and both are places where information's stored. Now, it might sound like you've heard all this from me before, but it obviously needs a bit of attention because we continue to get questions about this topic. The questions often concern messages that you see on your screen saying a computer is running out of memory when there are lots of megabytes of hard disk space left. The most important thing to understand is that a disk is a permanent storehouse for information. When you install software or save your work, it's written onto the hard disk. Now, this is the hard disk. The icons for files, which you see on your desktop, represent information that's stored on the hard disk. The free space on your hard disk is for storing more files. These might be your own work or new software. This information will stay on the hard disk even when the computer is turned off or the disk is taken out and put onto another machine. The hard disk is like a filing cabinet. Things can be put in and taken out and stored there for a long time. Now, memory works completely differently. The memory is the computer's workspace. When you open a file, the computer loads it into memory. Here you can work on it, make changes, and add new information. If you turn off the computer without saving first, the contents of memory will be lost. To keep your changes, save your work, and it'll then be copied back to the hard disk. Remember, when you're using your files in memory, you're working on a copy. The original is still there on the disk. That's handy because if you should make a major error or lose the work in memory, you can always go back to the original on the hard disk and start again. Software like the graphics package you can see is also loaded into memory, where the computer can get at it very quickly as you use it. It's when you start to run a very complicated piece of software or a lot of applications at the same time that you're likely to run out of memory. And that's why, even when you have a lot of space on the hard disk, your computer can tell you that it's running out of memory. So, if your computer tells you it can't open a file or use a particular application because it doesn't have enough memory, try this simple remedy. Save and close everything else you've been working on, and you'll often find you can easily proceed.
This week's competition prize goes to Didier Savannah of East Bentley, Victoria. Don't forget our fantastic computer animation competition. You can win great prizes from Compaq and LacoVision. Entries must be on IBM-compatible discs in the Flick file format. Your style is what we want, so don't worry about disk space or the length of your work. Get animated now.
Australia's INXS are one of the world's supergroups. They've been touring the world constantly since they got together 17 years ago and are renowned for the power of their live performances. What you may not know is how closely the band depend on computers. Much of their 5 tons of equipment is computer-based, apart from guitars, drums and amplifiers. So their live sound is very much helped by special software. Most live performances by major bands have some link with computers, and INXS are no exception. Many of their songs are written or partially written using computers, and they're used on stage too. Even though they're playing live, some songs have a base of percussion sounds generated by computer, and that helps their live performance sound closer to what you'd hear on CD. Kurt Pengilly, INXS guitarist and saxophonist, is a latter-day computer buff who's delighted with the possibilities of his new discovery.
It's good actually in a lot of ways because it helps fill out the whole sort of sound of the band. But if we lose track of the song, we're in big trouble. When computers came along and started to become involved, on the music side of things, I thought if I didn't get involved at that point in time, it would leap so far ahead that I'd have, complete techno fear or whatever. So yeah, I chose to sort of go out and buy a computer, and I haven't looked back since.
What it's meant for the band has been something of a revolution. With fellow computer adventurer drummer John Farris, Kirk Pengilly set about computerising the band. That meant everything from writing songs to connecting the equipment on stage by computer. In fact, the band were one of the first in the world to use the computer link.
This is basically the sequencer. What that does is it sends out messages to all the different sounds or whatever and triggers them, you know, in a particular sequence, bars, measures, to a certain timing.
So this is percussion that is computer generated?
Basically, yeah. I'm just playing along. But when it came to perhaps the guitar solo in the song, this would send a message to my rack and would change it into my lead solo sound. Well, we actually use a computer in the studio to play along to keep a constant tempo and things like that. The majority of songs we've done on an album, we've run what's called a click track. This is it. As you can see, it's just a very simple shaker sound, you know. So you end up with, you know, a take that's all in time and, you know, tempo-wise, and you can't hear that we've actually placed something from another one onto that one. Does that make sense?
And if the system crashed, would you still be able to play a live concert?
Yeah, basically. I mean, what would happen would be my roadie would completely freak out, and he would probably then plug me straight into the amplifier. But it's very rare that ever happens. Luckily, most of it's very reliable.
With roughly 100 live performances to promote every new album, reliability is crucial and depends to a large extent on computers. One of Kirk's great discoveries, though, is being able to write music on a laptop. Do you write on the road?
Yeah, well, that's why I have this portable with me. All I have to do is plug a lead in the back of this, and I've got a little headphone preamplifier. So I just plug a little lead in this, plug my headphones in, switch it all on, and off I go. You know, I've got like a whole band basically in here. You know, and I think in 5 to 10 years' time, it'll be pretty rare that you record onto tape. It'll be onto a disc. You know.
Has anyone ever called you a Luddite? If they have, it's probably because you were displaying a basic inability to deal with technology. The man responsible for this term is Charles Ludd. Known to his friends as Ned, he rallied together a group of Scottish labourers against a local factory in the late 18th century. They smashed new labour-saving equipment and chanted slogans, cursing the machinery that had put them out of a job. When arrested, Ludd claimed that the introduction of new technology was a move against working people, ultimately destroying their lifestyle. That was the Industrial Revolution, and some things never changed. 200 years later, new technology continues to change the way we work. Computers are the latest step in this continual process of technological change. They're everywhere. The office, supermarket, tourist industry, you name it. Computers are just about any place where work's done. Just as the labourers of Ludd's time had to learn to operate machinery to increase their chances of finding work, so computer literacy has become a key to employment today. As the handling of information takes over from the handling of goods, people who've been unable to adapt are finding their employment prospects limited. But take heart. This revolution is still in its infancy, and recognising that the computer is just another tool to enhance our lives will help us claim mastery over it. Companies and governments that don't prepare their workforce for this new era will find themselves left behind in a rapidly changing world.
Now go on, admit it. You've yelled at your computer before, right? Well, I know I have, and it's not because we don't love our computers, it's just that sometimes they're a little frustrating. A word of warning, though. Be careful what computers you yell at, because some of them are talking back.
Hello, welcome to Macintosh. this in a different kind of computer voice. It doesn't sound too bad, does it?
Way back in the age of the dinosaur, computers were simple. You could get by just by typing commands at them. And then as the complexity grew inside computers, as the file systems became more complicated, the operating system and so on, it just became overwhelming. You couldn't remember all the commands, you kept on getting things wrong. And then Apple brought out these computers that had the point-and-click interface, with these windows and icons.
Right.
And for us, we believe it's time for a new paradigm, a new style of interaction with the computer, where instead of having to point and click and bring up this menu and find that sub-menu and then click on this button and get lost in the complexity of that, you just tell the machine what you want it to do. Computer, schedule a meeting with Bob Strong.
On what day would you like to meet?
Next Wednesday?
At what time would you like to meet?
From 2 p.m. till 4 p.m.
Where would you like to meet?
In Three Ring Circus?
That conference room is already taken.
Oh, okay. How about Three Stooges?
Okay. A meeting is now scheduled with Bob Strong on March 2 from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock in Three Stooges.
There's two technologies involved, speech recognition and speech synthesis. Speech recognition is getting the computer to understand what we say to it. You have to record hundreds of thousands of examples of real human speech and model the variation statistically of all of the sounds, the vowels and consonants in the languages, because the way you speak is different from the way I speak.
Right, I was going to ask that question. What about dialects, you know, different ways of saying different words?
Right. There's problems between dialects, there's even problems within dialects, because within Australian English, within American English, different people say things differently.
Right.
You need to model that variation, and we have very sophisticated statistical models to capture that kind of variation, model it, and capitalise on it so that we can get the computer to understand the speech when it hears it.
What are the advantages of getting a computer system that you can talk to, that you can interact with?
There's a whole bunch of advantages for different kinds of people.
Right.
For example, for disadvantaged people, like people with hearing disabilities,
of course, yeah.
or the blind. I was sent some email just a couple of weeks ago by a guy. His problem was his uncle, I think it was his uncle, has Lou Gehrig's disease, and his uncle also had lost the ability to speak. Well, this guy just bought for his uncle one of these Macs and wrote a few programs that use the speech technology that's already there, so that the guy could use this Mac now to talk to his family again.
There are obvious advantages for the general user. Do
Right.
phone calls?
You bet. You could say to the computer, call Fred, and it can go to your address book, find Fred, find his telephone number, figure out whether it's what time of the day it is and whether it should call him at home or at work, call him, and then the voice actually come out of the computer and you can actually have the telephone conversation without picking up the phone. I mean, let's get this thing off our desk.
The AV Mac gives you the choice of over 30 different voices, and to break up the monotony, there's the option to distort them however you please.
Here, this one's fun. I think you'll like this one, Phil.
Phil, your fly is open.
No, it's not. Other options include video conferencing using phone lines and broadcasting at 10 to 15 frames a second. The good news is the features of AV Mac are available with all new Apple computers. For current Mac users, upgrades are available through dealers.
Goodbye, Phil. It was nice to meet you.
You too.
Talk to you soon. I really think that the Big Byte is a real cool program. Hey, mate. Would you like my phone number?
Decisions. When you're after some extra cash, the best place to go is your local bank. The problem is that every bank charges different interest rates with different repayment terms. You need to be able to work out which offer is the cheapest. This is the sort of job spreadsheets handle wonderfully. Of course, spreadsheets have been around for a long, long time, but now electronic spreadsheets let you manipulate figures with your computer. These software programs range from the basic household budget managers to the very sophisticated programs used by major financial institutions. Speaking of which, I want to borrow some money, so I've used a spreadsheet to help me work out which loan costs the least. Spreadsheets work on formulas, so the first time you need to use one, you have to put in all the formulas you need. Once they're stored on your spreadsheet, every time you change the numbers, the calculation adjusts automatically. Now, for instance, I need to borrow, say, $100,000, so I type that in. My brother's offered to lend it to me at an interest rate of 10%, although I know neither of my brothers would charge me that much. But anyhow, he wants me to pay $1,000 each month, so I put in $12,000, the annual repayment, which is all I know about the loan. Now, let's see how much I owe at the end of the year. I start a formula with an equal sign and begin with the principal that I originally owed. I also owe the first year's interest, so I add that on. I subtract the repayments that I've made, and when I hit return, there it is, year 1. I can repeat this for year 2 by simply cutting and pasting. Year 3 the same, and so on. They're equally simple until I reach the end of the loan. Now, by changing the interest rate, I can see how much time it'll take to pay back the loan if I borrow from different people at different rates. I can put the different scenarios there side by side. And that's where a spreadsheet is really handy, seeing what happens if. But do be careful. Many of us suffer from a common spreadsheet complaint. We spend so long testing the what-ifs that we end up more confused than if we'd used a calculator in the beginning. If you want a picture of the numbers you've put in, a spreadsheet makes that really easy too. Now, there's my brother's loan, but this one from the bank is much better. So much for brotherly love.
What's that noise? My goodness!
Hi there, nice to see you. Now, wait a minute. Richard, please, steady on. You're making me dizzy. I'm trying to talk to people. You there? Right, OK, thank you, that's better. Now, you might be wondering what I'm doing here. Well, Hayden's off doing his exams, so they thought they'd set me up with a game because I've never played a computer game before, and I've got to confess that. So guess what they set me up with? Beginner's luck, I guess you could call it. Barbie. Yes, it's a glamorous quest full of magic, fun and adventure, says here right on the box. And it's based on the life of this 35-year-old doll who's become an icon of the 20th century. And ultimately, at the end of her perfect day, she's looking for a date with Ken. What a reward. Now, on the way to the date with Ken, Barbie has to go through several obstacles. She gets over these by bouncing a lot, jumping along a lot. And also she throws charms, bows to stop people, diamonds to get them to do something special, and hearts, that extra little bit special. Now, the first part of this game I found, or first few sections, were incredibly dull. They went on and on forever. So I thought we'd start today in one of the more interesting bits. Let's see what happens when she goes to the underwater world and becomes a mermaid. OK, here's my favourite part in SeaWorld. You're holding that steady because I like this. No, Right, now you've got to wait till the dolphin picks her up. Now, the problem with this game is, I've got to tell you, is the response is very slow. So when you think the dolphin's picked you up, often it hasn't, in fact. You keep trying, and that is one of the aggravating bits of the game. Here we go. Are we there yet? Quite, not quite. Yes, no. Yes, here we go. We're going into a different Barbie world now. We've shed that mermaid's costume. We put on a bit of a costume suitable. Oh, my God, there's Ken, my dream date. I hope I get to him eventually. We might get to the ball. I have a funny feeling that Ken might have invented this game. I don't think he wants her to get to that dream date at all. Picking up more Z's, we hope, more Z's. Oh, there's a friendly ice cream cone again. Oh, and a gold record. Whoopee-doo, let's see what happens. Get me past that, get me a gold record, get me more power, and get me to Ken, please, get me to Ken. Now, girls like computer games for the same reason boys do. Lots of colour, movement and action, and this one really does fall short of it. Maybe if you're a real beginner like me, it does get you going, but basically it's too boring to get me going. I give it about 4 out of 10, and guys, if you really want me to learn about these games, give me something a bit more interesting. Yo, dudes, dig you next time, stay cool.
Next week on The Big Byte, Scots line up to see the latest games, computers and other technology at a fair in Edinburgh.
We take you behind the scenes at The Big Byte to have a look at some of the technology that goes into putting the show together. And meet Tom Basie, the unassuming millionaire who uses computers to hide three-dimensional images in patterns of colour.